At 3 in the morning, billionaire Adrian Cole made a decision that would destroy everything he'd built or save the one thing he'd lost. In a nearly empty diner, across from a woman with trembling hands and eyes too tired to lie, he offered her something that looked like charity but felt like desperation. She thought he was saving her. He knew better. This is their story, messy, complicated, and nothing like the fairy tale you think it is. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The Mercedes idled at a red light that didn't matter. At 3:17 a.m., there were no other cars, no pedestrians, just the hum of the engine and the slow, steady breathing of Marcus in the driver's seat, pretending not to notice that his boss hadn't slept in 48 hours. Adrian Cole sat in the back, staring at nothing through tinted windows. 32 years old, $3 billion in the bank, a penthouse that overlooked half of Manhattan, a son asleep 3 floors below his own bedroom, dreaming whatever 5-year-olds dream about, and Adrian couldn't remember the last time he'd felt anything. "Take the long way," he said. Marcus didn't ask which long way, he just drove. They wound through streets Adrian used to know when he was younger and hungrier, and still believed money could fix the parts of himself that felt broken. Past the building where he'd signed his first deal, past the bar where he'd celebrated his first million alone because he didn't have anyone to call. Past the hospital where his wife had died, giving birth to the only good thing he'd ever made. He didn't look at any of it. "Sir," Marcus said quietly, "there's a diner up ahead. You want coffee?" Adrian didn't want coffee. He didn't want anything. But he said yes anyway because sitting still felt worse than moving, and maybe caffeine would trick his brain into something resembling function. The diner was the kind of place that had stopped trying 20 years ago. Flickering neon sign, cracked vinyl booths, a countertop that had seen 1,000 elbows and absorbed 1,000 confessions. The windows were fogged from the inside, and through the glass, Adrian could see exactly one person. A woman. She stood at the sink behind the counter, her back to the door, scrubbing a plate with the kind of focus people only have when they're trying not to think about something else. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail that had come half undone. Her uniform was wrinkled. Her shoulders were tight. "Wait here," Adrian said. He stepped out into the cold and the air bit at his face. He hadn't worn a coat, hadn't thought about it. The door chimed when he pushed it open, and the woman turned. For a second, neither of them moved. She wasn't beautiful in the way the women at his galas were beautiful. No designer dress, no calculated smile. She looked, tired, worn down, like someone who'd been running on fumes for so long she'd forgotten what it felt like to be full. But her eyes were sharp. "We're closed," she said. Her voice was quiet but firm, and there was something in it that made Adrian stop just inside the door. "Sign says 24 hours, he said. She glanced at the door, then back at him. Her jaw tightened. "Sign's wrong." Adrian looked around. The lights were on. The coffee pot was half full. There were clean mugs stacked beside the register. "You're still here," he said. "I'm cleaning." "At 3 in the morning?" She didn't answer, just turned back to the sink and kept scrubbing. Her hands were shaking. Not much. Just enough that Adrian noticed. He should have left. Should have walked back to the car, told Marcus to drive him home, poured himself a drink, and stared at the ceiling until the sun came up like he did every other night. Instead, he sat down at the counter. The woman froze. Slowly, she set the plate down and turned to face him. Up close, he could see the exhaustion etched into her face, the faint bruise under her eyes from too many sleepless nights, the way her hands gripped the edge of the sink like it was the only thing holding her up. "I said we're closed," she repeated. "I heard you." "Then why are you still here?" Adrian didn't have a good answer for that, so he said, "I'll pay double for a cup of coffee." Her mouth opened, closed. She stared at him like he'd just spoken a language she didn't recognize. "You're serious," she said. "I don't joke about coffee." A beat. Then, impossibly, the corner of her mouth twitched, not quite a smile, just the ghost of one. "Fine," she said, "but you drink it fast and you leave." She poured the coffee without looking at him, set it down on the counter with a soft clink, and stepped back like he might bite. Adrian wrapped his hands around the mug. It was warm. He hadn't realized how cold his fingers were. "Thank you," he said. She nodded, didn't say anything, just went back to the sink. For a while, the only sound was water running and the occasional scrape of a plate. Adrian sipped his coffee. It was terrible, burnt and bitter and probably 6 hours old. He drank it anyway. "What's your name?" he asked. She didn't turn around. "Why?" "Because I'd like to know who makes the worst coffee in Manhattan." That got her. She turned, and this time there was something close to amusement in her eyes. "Elena." "Adrian." "I know who you are." He frowned. "You do?" Elena nodded toward the window. "Your car's idling outside. Nobody sits in a car like that unless they're rich or running from something." She paused. "And you don't look like you're running." Adrian set his mug down. "Maybe I'm both." She studied him for a moment, and he had the unsettling feeling that she was seeing more than he wanted her to. Then she shrugged and went back to the dishes. "Why are you here?" Adrian asked. "I work here." "At 3 in the morning." "Shift ended at 2, she said. "I'm cleaning." "That's not your job." "It is now." Adrian frowned. "They make you stay after your shift?" Elena's hand stilled. She didn't answer. "Elena." "It's fine," she said quietly. "It's not legal." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Yeah, well, I need the job." Adrian leaned back in his seat. Outside, Marcus tapped the steering wheel, patient as ever. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. "How much do they pay you?" Adrian asked. Elena turned, and this time there was something guarded in her expression. "Why?" "Just curious." "No, you're not." He wasn't. She was right. He was calculating, already running numbers in his head, already seeing the problem and the solution and the cleanest path between the two. "Minimum wage," Elena said finally, "plus tips, which aren't much." "How many hours a week?" "Enough." "Elena." She crossed her arms. "Why do you care?" Good question. Adrian didn't know the answer. Or maybe he did, and he didn't want to say it out loud. Because you're standing here at 3 in the morning scrubbing dishes that aren't yours, and your hands are shaking, and you look like you haven't slept in a week. And I know what that feels like. Because I'm tired of feeling nothing, and you look like you feel everything, and I don't know which one of us has it worse. Because I walked in here expecting coffee, and instead I found someone who's still fighting, and I forgot what that looks like. He didn't say any of that. Instead he said, "I'm hiring." Elena blinked. "What?" "I'm hiring," Adrian repeated. "I need someone at my company. Administrative work, scheduling, coordination. It's not complicated, but it pays well." She stared at him like he'd just grown a second head. "You don't know me," she said slowly. "I know enough." "You know my name. That's it." "I know you show up," Adrian said. "I know you work when you don't have to. I know you're still standing even though you look like you're about 2 seconds from collapsing. That's more than most people I've hired." Elena shook her head. "This is insane." "Probably." "You can't just offer people jobs in the middle of the night." "I just did." She laughed again, and this time it sounded almost hysterical. "I don't even know what you do. Real estate, development, some venture capital. Does it matter?" "Yes," she said. "It matters. Because this doesn't happen. People don't just walk into diners and offer strangers jobs." "I do." "Why?" Adrian looked at her, really looked at her, at the way she held herself like she was ready to run, at the suspicion in her eyes, at the fear barely hidden beneath the exhaustion. "Because you need it," he said quietly. Elena's expression shifted. Something cracked, just for a second. Then she turned away, gripping the edge of the sink again. "I don't need charity," she said. "It's not charity. It's a job." "Same thing." "It's not." She shook her head. "You don't know anything about me. You don't know what I need." Adrian stood, slowly, carefully, like he was approaching something wild. "You're right," he said. "I don't. But I know what desperation looks like. And I know what it's like to be so tired you can't see straight, but you keep moving anyway because stopping means giving up." He paused. "Am I wrong?" Elena didn't answer. "The job pays $80,000 a year," Adrian said. "Full benefits. Health insurance, dental, vision, paid time off." He reached into his jacket, pulled out a business card, and set it on the counter between them. Think about it. He turned to leave. Wait. Adrian stopped. Elena was staring at the card like it might explode. Why are you doing this? He could have lied, could have said something about corporate responsibility or giving back or any of the other polished phrases people like him used to make themselves feel better. But he was tired, and she was tired. And at 3 a.m, lies felt heavier than the truth. I don't know, he said, and he walked out. Elena stood alone in the empty diner staring at the business card on the counter. Adrian Cole, CEO, Cole Enterprises. Her hands were still shaking. She picked up the card, turned it over. There was a phone number on the back written in clean, precise handwriting. $80,000. She made $19,000 last year, before taxes. This was insane. This was a trap. This was... Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, already knowing what it would say. A text from her mother's nurse. Another bill. Another payment due. Another reminder that time was running out and money was running faster. Elena looked at the card again. Then she slipped it into her pocket and went back to washing dishes. Adrian didn't sleep that night either. He sat in his study, nursing a glass of whiskey he didn't want, staring at the city lights stretched out below. His phone sat on the desk beside him, silent. He didn't know why he'd done it, didn't know what he expected, didn't even know if she'd call. Probably not. She was smart. She'd see through it, see him for what he was. A man with too much money and too little purpose, trying to fill the gaps with other people's problems. His wife would have laughed at him, would have called him out on his bullshit with that sharp, knowing smile she used to have. Would have told him to stop trying to fix things that weren't his to fix. But she wasn't here, and Elena was. Adrian drained his glass and poured another. 2 days later, his assistant buzzed him. Sir, there's a woman here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment. Adrian glanced at his calendar. Back-to-back meetings until 7. Conference call at 8. Dinner with investors at 9. Tell her... She says her name is Elena Brooks. Adrian stopped. Send her in. A minute later, the door opened and Elena walked into his office like she was walking into a firing squad. She looked different in daylight, still tired, still wary, but there was something else now, something that looked like determination. Hi, she said. Hi. They stood there for a moment, neither of them quite sure what to do next. I thought about your offer, Elena said finally. And? She took a breath. I need to know this is real, not some, I don't know, guilt thing or a tax write-off or whatever rich people do to feel better about themselves. Adrian almost smiled. It's not. Then what is it? It's a job, he said. You work, I pay you. That's it. That's not it, Elena said. You're offering me more money than I've ever seen in my life. You don't know me. You don't know if I'm good at anything. You don't know if I'll show up or flake out or... You'll show up, Adrian said. How do you know? Because you were scrubbing dishes at 3 a.m. when you didn't have to. Elena stared at him. That's not... It's enough. She shook her head, but she didn't leave. I need health insurance, she said quietly. For my mom. She's sick. Cancer. Stage 3. The treatment's expensive, and I can't... Her voice cracked. She stopped. Took another breath. I can't pay for it. Not on what I make now. Adrian's chest tightened. The insurance kicks in immediately, he said. And I'll make some calls. Get her in with a specialist. Best one in the city. Elena's eyes widened. You can't. I can. Why? Because I can, Adrian said simply. And because you need it. For a long moment, Elena just stood there, trembling. Then, so quietly he almost didn't hear it, she said, Okay. Okay? I'll take the job. Adrian nodded. Good. But I'm not... She swallowed. I'm not going to owe you anything outside of work. This is just a job. Just a job, Adrian agreed. She didn't believe him. He could see it in her eyes, and honestly, he wasn't sure he believed himself. But it didn't matter, because she said yes. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, Adrian felt something close to hope. Elena started the following Monday. Adrian's assistant, a sharp-eyed woman named Diane, who'd been with the company for 12 years, took one look at her and raised an eyebrow. "She's the new hire?" Diane asked. "She is. No resume, no references, no experience." "She has experience," Adrian said, "just not the kind you're thinking of." Diane gave him a look that said she knew exactly what he was doing and disapproved entirely, but she didn't argue. Just handed Elena a stack of orientation paperwork and showed her to her desk. Elena's desk was on the 32nd floor, tucked into a corner with a view of the river. She sat down slowly, like she was afraid the chair might collapse under her. "You okay?" Adrian asked. She nodded, didn't look at him. "Elena." "I'm fine," she said. It's a lot. If you need anything, I'm fine," she repeated, and this time there was steel in her voice. Adrian nodded and left her alone. She wasn't fine. Adrian could see it in the way her hands shook when she reached for her coffee, in the way she flinched every time someone walked past her desk, in the way she double-checked every email 3 times before sending it, like she was waiting for someone to tell her she'd made a mistake. But she showed up, every day, early. She learned fast, asked good questions, didn't complain. And slowly, something started to shift. 3 weeks in, Adrian found her in the break room at midnight, staring at a spreadsheet on her laptop. "You're still here," he said. Elena jumped. "I didn't hear you." "Sorry." He nodded at the screen. "What are you working on?" "The Foster project. There's a discrepancy in the budget, and I wanted to make sure I caught it before tomorrow's meeting." Adrian looked at the spreadsheet. She was right. There was a discrepancy. A small one. Most people wouldn't have noticed. "Good catch," he said. Elena's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Thanks." Adrian poured himself a coffee. "You don't have to stay this late." "I know." "So why are you?" She hesitated. "I don't want to mess up." "You're not going to mess up. You don't know that." "I do," Adrian said. "You're careful. You pay attention. You care. That's more than half the people in this building." Elena looked at him, and for the first time since she'd started, there was something other than fear in her expression. "Thank you," she said quietly. Adrian nodded. "Go home, Elena. Get some sleep." She packed up her laptop, but before she left, she turned back. "Adrian?" "Yeah?" "Why did you really hire me?" He could have deflected, could have given her the same answer he'd given Diane and the board and everyone else who'd asked. But it was midnight, and they were alone, and he was tired of lying. "Because I saw you," he said, "and I knew if I didn't do something, I'd regret it." Elena's breath caught. It's the truth." She stared at him for a long moment, then she nodded and left. Adrian stood alone in the break room, holding a cup of coffee he didn't want, and wondered what the hell he was doing. The answer came a week later. Elena's mother, Margaret, got her first appointment with Dr. Okonkwo, the oncologist Adrian had called in a favor to access. The treatment plan was aggressive, expensive, but it had a chance. Elena cried when she told him. Not in the office. She waited until they were alone, in the parking garage at the end of the day, and then the words just spilled out of her in a rush. "She has a chance," Elena said, her voice breaking. "She actually has a chance. I didn't let myself hope, but now." She covered her face with her hands, and her whole body shook. Adrian stood there, frozen, because he didn't know what to do. Didn't know if he was allowed to do anything. Then, before he could think better of it, he stepped forward and put a hand on her shoulder. Elena stiffened. Then slowly, she leaned into him. Just a little. Just enough. And Adrian realized with a clarity that felt like a punch to the chest that this wasn't just a job anymore. It never had been. Over the next month, Elena became part of the rhythm of Adrian's life. She was there in the mornings, already at her desk when he arrived. There in the evenings, reviewing reports while he took calls. There in the in-between moments, asking questions that made him think harder about decisions he used to make on autopilot. She was smart. Not just competent, sharp. She saw patterns he missed, caught mistakes before they became problems, suggested solutions that were better than his own. And she was kind. Not in the performative way people at his level were kind, writing checks and shaking hands and saying the right things at the right galas. Elena was kind the way people who'd been hurt were kind. Carefully, deliberately. Like she knew exactly how much it cost and chose to pay it anyway. She remembered names, brought coffee to the interns, stayed late to help the night custodian fix a jammed copier. Adrian watched her, and he couldn't look away. But it was Diane who finally said something. "You're staring," she said one afternoon, appearing at his elbow like a particularly judgmental ghost. Adrian blinked. "What?" "At her." Diane nodded toward Elena's desk. "You're staring. Again." "I'm not." "You are. And it's making people talk." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Let them talk," Diane sighed. "Adrian, I've worked for you for 12 years. I've seen you date models, actresses, that one ambassador's daughter who tried to sell your secrets to a tabloid. Your point?" "My point is I've never seen you look at any of them the way you look at her." Adrian didn't answer. "She's not like them," Diane said quietly. "She's not playing a game. She's not here for your money or your name or your connections. She's just trying to survive. And if you're not careful, you're going to hurt her." "I'm not going to—" "You already are," Diane said, "just by being you." She walked away before he could respond. Adrian stood there, staring at nothing, knowing she was right. That night, he went home and poured himself a drink. Then another. Then he pulled up Elena's file on his computer and stared at it until the words blurred together. He shouldn't have hired her, shouldn't have gotten involved, shouldn't have let himself care. But it was too late. Because somewhere between the diner and the break room and the parking garage, Elena Brooks had become the first thing he thought about in the morning and the last thing he thought about at night. And he had no idea what to do about it. The problem started small. A month and a half into Elena's tenure at Cole Enterprises, Adrian's son got sick. It was just a cold, nothing serious. But Liam's regular nanny had the flu, and the backup nanny was visiting family in Ohio, and Adrian's schedule was a nightmare of back-to-back meetings he couldn't cancel. He was standing in his office at 6 in the morning, phone pressed to his ear, listening to yet another agency tell him they didn't have anyone available on such short notice when Elena knocked on the door. "Come in," he said, not looking up. She stepped inside holding 2 cups of coffee, one for him, one for her. It had become a routine. "You're here early," she said. "Couldn't sleep." "Join the club." She set his coffee on the desk, then noticed his expression. "What's wrong?" Adrian hung up the phone, rubbed his eyes. "Liam's sick. Both nannies are out. I have 3 meetings I can't move, and I don't know what to do." Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I could watch him." Adrian looked up. "What?" "I could watch him until you figure something else out." "Elena, you have work." "I can bring my laptop, answer emails. It's not that different from being at my desk." She paused. "Unless you don't trust me with him." "It's not that." "Then what is it?" Adrian didn't have a good answer. Or maybe he did, and it was too complicated to say out loud. Because letting Elena into his home felt different than letting her into his office. Because his son was the one thing in his life that mattered more than anything else, and trusting someone with that felt like handing them a loaded gun. Because he was already too close to her, and this would make it worse. "Okay, he said. Elena blinked. "Okay?" "Yeah, if you're sure." "I'm sure." Adrian nodded slowly. "I'll send you the address." She smiled, small, genuine. "I'll be there in an hour." And she was. Adrian opened the door to find her standing on his doorstep, holding a bag of groceries and looking nervous. "I brought stuff to make soup," she said. "My mom used to make it when I was sick. I thought, I don't know, maybe he'd like it." Something twisted in Adrian's chest. "Come in," he said. The penthouse was exactly what someone would expect from a billionaire bachelor. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, art that cost more than most people made in a year, everything expensive, nothing warm. Elena looked around and Adrian could see her cataloging it all. The space, the silence, the utter lack of anything that looked like a home. "Where is he?" she asked. "Living room, on the couch." Adrian led her through the open space to where Liam was curled up under a blanket, watching cartoons with glassy eyes. His dark hair stuck up at odd angles. His cheeks were flushed. He looked tiny. "Liam," Adrian said gently, "this is Elena. She's going to stay with you today while I'm at work." Liam looked at her with the kind of suspicion only a 5-year-old could muster. "Why?" "Because Miss Rosa is sick and Miss Jennifer is visiting her mom." "Are you sick too?" Liam asked Elena. "Nope," Elena said, crouching down so she was at his level. "Just me. Totally healthy. Although I did bring soup ingredients, which some people think is a sickness all on its own." Liam's lips twitched, almost a smile. "What kind of soup?" he asked. "Chicken noodle, the real kind, not from a can." "I like the kind from a can." "Well," Elena said seriously, "I guess we'll have to do a taste test. Scientific method. Very important." Liam considered this. Then he nodded. "Okay." Adrian felt something loosen in his chest. "I have to go," he said. "But call me if you need anything. I mean it. Anything." "We'll be fine," Elena said, and she sounded so sure that Adrian almost believed her. He left. And for the next 8 hours, he couldn't focus on a single thing. He sat through meetings and heard nothing, signed contracts without reading them, gave approvals he'd normally scrutinize for hours. All he could think about was his son, and Elena, and the two of them alone in his apartment. At 2 in the afternoon, his phone buzzed. A photo. Liam and Elena sitting on the kitchen floor surrounded by pots and wooden spoons. Liam was laughing, actually laughing. His face was still flushed, but his eyes were bright. The caption read, "Soup's ready. He says it's better than the can. Don't tell Campbell's." Adrian stared at the photo for a full minute. Then he forwarded it to himself and saved it. When he got home that night, the apartment smelled like chicken and herbs. Liam was asleep on the couch, the blanket tucked up to his chin. Elena was in the kitchen, washing dishes. "Hey," she said softly when she saw him. "Hey." He ate 2 bowls, took his medicine without complaining. We played cards for an hour, and then he crashed. Adrian walked over to the couch and looked down at his son. Liam's breathing was even, peaceful. "Thank you," Adrian said. "You already paid me." "Not for this." Elena dried her hands on a towel. "He's a good kid." "He liked you." "I liked him too." They stood there in the dim light of the kitchen, and Adrian felt the space between them shrink. "You didn't have to do this," he said. "I know." "So why did you?" Elena looked at him, and there was something unguarded in her expression. Something that looked almost like longing. "Because I know what it's like," she said quietly, "to need help and not know where to find it." Adrian's throat tightened. "You should go home," he said. "Get some rest." Elena nodded, grabbed her bag, started toward the door. Then she stopped. "Adrian?" "Yeah?" "You're a good dad." She left before he could respond. Adrian stood there staring at the closed door and realized he was in serious trouble. The next morning, Diane cornered him in his office. "You had her babysit your son," she said. "No preamble, no pretense. He was sick. You have agencies, services, people who do this professionally. None of them were available." Diane crossed her arms. "Adrian, what? Do you hear yourself?" "I needed help. She offered. That's it." "That's not it," Diane said. "And you know it's not." Adrian's jaw tightened. "What do you want me to say?" "I want you to be honest. With me. With yourself. With her." "I am being honest." "No," Diane said. "You're being reckless. And the difference is going to matter." She left. Adrian sat at his desk and tried to focus on work. Tried to ignore the way his mind kept drifting back to the photo on his phone, to the sound of Liam's laughter, to the way Elena had looked at him in the kitchen. He lasted until noon, then he walked out of his office, took the elevator down to the 32nd floor, and found Elena at her desk. "Can I talk to you?" he asked. She looked up, startled. "Sure, is something wrong?" "No, just come with me." He led her to one of the empty conference rooms and closed the door behind them. Elena set her coffee down on the table. "You're making me nervous." "I want to start a new initiative," Adrian said. She blinked. "Okay, community outreach, shelters, clinics, programs for families who are struggling. I want Cole Enterprises to fund it, but I don't want it to be some corporate PR stunt. I want it to be real, to actually help people." Elena stared at him. That's a big project. I know. It'll take months, maybe years. You'll need a team, a budget, a plan. I have a budget. I'll get a team. But I need someone to lead it. Someone who understands what it's like to need help. Someone who won't let it turn into another tax write-off. Elena's eyes widened. You want me to lead it? Yes. Adrian, I don't have experience with... You have the only experience that matters, he said. You've lived it. She shook her head. This is insane. Probably. I'm not qualified. You're the most qualified person I know. Elena laughed, but it sounded shaky. You don't even know me. I know enough. She looked at him for a long moment, and Adrian could see the war happening behind her eyes. The fear, the hope, the desperate, fragile belief that maybe, just maybe, this could work. Okay, she said finally. Okay, I'll do it. Adrian smiled. Actually smiled. Good. But I'm going to need help. A real team. People who know what they're doing. Done. And I'm going to make mistakes. Everyone does. And if this doesn't work, it will, Adrian said. Elena met his gaze. How do you know? Because you won't let it fail. She looked like she wanted to argue, but instead she just nodded. And something shifted between them. Something Adrian couldn't name but felt in his bones. The outreach program became Elena's entire world. She threw herself into it with a focus Adrian had only seen in people who were running from something or toward something and couldn't afford to stop. She researched shelters, visited clinics, talked to social workers and nurses and case managers. She came back with lists and plans and ideas that made Adrian's head spin. Within 2 weeks, she'd assembled a team, small but dedicated, a grant writer, a logistics coordinator, a partnership director. Within a month, they'd identified their first 3 projects: a shelter expansion, a mobile clinic, a scholarship fund for single parents. Elena ran it all with the kind of efficiency that would have impressed a general, and Adrian watched her transform. She stopped looking tired, stopped flinching when people walked past her desk, started speaking up in meetings, started believing in herself. It was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen, but it also meant she was around, constantly, in his office, asking for approvals, in the conference room, presenting updates, at his apartment, dropping off files and staying for dinner because Liam asked her to. The lines blurred, and Adrian stopped trying to redraw them. One night, 3 months after the outreach program launched, Elena showed up at his apartment unannounced. Adrian opened the door and found her standing there, holding a bottle of wine and looking sheepish. I'm sorry, she said. I should have called. I had good news, and I wanted to tell someone, and you were the first person I thought of, and... Come in, Adrian said. She stepped inside, and he could see the energy radiating off her. What's the good news? He asked. Elena set the wine down on the counter. The mobile clinic, it's operational. We did our first run today, saw 32 patients, gave out flu shots, connected 6 people to long-term care. It worked, Adrian. It actually worked. She was glowing. Adrian felt something crack open in his chest. That's incredible, he said. I know, I still can't believe it. I kept waiting for something to go wrong, but it didn't. It just worked. She laughed. We're actually helping people. You're helping people, Adrian corrected. We, Elena insisted. This was your idea. It was your execution. She smiled at him, and it was so genuine, so unguarded, that Adrian forgot how to breathe. Thank you, she said softly, for believing in me. You made it easy. They stood there, the kitchen island between them, and Adrian knew he should step back, should put distance between them, should remember all the reasons this was a bad idea. Instead, he stepped forward. Elena. Yeah? Can I ask you something? She nodded. Why did you say yes? That night in the diner, when I offered you the job. You didn't trust me. You thought I was crazy. So why did you say yes? Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, because I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. Not when the alternative is watching your mom die because you can't afford to save her. Her voice was steady, but there was pain underneath. I said yes because I was desperate. And because some part of me wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, someone actually gave a damn. Adrian's chest tightened. I do. I know, Elena said. That's the problem. What do you mean? She looked at him and there was something raw in her eyes. Because this isn't just a job anymore, and I don't know what it is, and that scares me. Adrian should have lied, should have told her it was just a job, that she was imagining things, that the boundaries were still intact, but he was tired of lying. It scares me too, he said. Elena's breath caught, and then before either of them could think better of it, Adrian closed the distance between them and kissed her. For a second, Elena froze. Then she kissed him back. It wasn't smooth, wasn't perfect. Her hands trembled against his chest. His grip on her waist was too tight. They bumped noses, hesitated, almost pulled away. But they didn't, because this was inevitable. It had been since the moment he walked into that diner. When they finally broke apart, Elena was shaking. We can't, she whispered. I know. You're my boss. I know. People will talk. Let them. Elena shook her head. Adrian, I don't care, he said. I don't care what people say. I don't care if it's complicated. He stopped, took a breath. I haven't felt like this in years, he said quietly. Maybe ever. And I know it's selfish. I know I'm asking you to risk everything, but I can't pretend anymore. I can't stand next to you and act like you're just someone who works for me. Because you're not. You haven't been for a long time. Elena stared at him, her eyes wide and wet. What are you saying? She whispered. I'm saying I want this, Adrian said. Whatever this is, I want to try. And if it doesn't work? Then it doesn't work, but at least we'll know. Elena closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, there was something that looked like surrender. Okay, she said. Okay? Yeah. Okay. Adrian kissed her again, slower this time, softer. And for a moment, everything else fell away. But reality has a way of catching up. The first person to notice was Liam. He was 5. He didn't understand relationships or boundaries or the difference between a nanny and someone his dad was seeing. He just knew that Elena made his dad smile, that she played cards with him and made soup and didn't talk to him like he was stupid. Is Elena your girlfriend? Liam asked one night at dinner. Adrian nearly choked on his water. What? Is she your girlfriend? Liam repeated. Like in the movies. Adrian glanced at Elena, who looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. It's complicated, Adrian said. That means yes, Liam said confidently. Miss Jennifer says grown-ups say it's complicated when they don't want to tell the truth. Elena covered her mouth, but Adrian could see her smile. Miss Jennifer is very wise, Adrian said dryly. So it is, yes? Adrian looked at Elena. She looked back, and something passed between them. Yeah, Adrian said. I guess it is. Liam grinned. Cool. Can she come to my soccer game on Saturday? Elena laughed. If you want me to. I do. Then I'll be there. Liam went back to his chicken nuggets, satisfied. Adrian reached under the table and found Elena's hand. She squeezed back. But not everyone was happy. The news spread through Cole Enterprises like wildfire. Adrian's executive assistant was dating him, the woman he'd hired with no resume, no experience, the waitress from the diner. Some people were curious, some were supportive, most were skeptical. And then there was Diane. She didn't say anything at first, just watched, waited. And then, 2 weeks after Adrian and Elena made it official, she walked into his office and closed the door. We need to talk, she said. Adrian looked up from his laptop. About? About the fact that you're dating your employee. About the optics. About the lawsuit waiting to happen. There's no lawsuit. Not yet. Adrian's jaw tightened. Elena and I are both adults. We're not doing anything wrong. You're her boss, Adrian. You hired her. You pay her. You promoted her. How do you think that looks? I don't care how it looks. You should, Diane said, because the board cares, the investors care, and the second someone decides they have an axe to grind, this is what they're going to use. Let them try, Diane sighed. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. No, Diane said. You're thinking with your heart, which is sweet, but it's also dangerous. Adrian stood. I'm not going to apologize for caring about her. I'm not asking you to apologize. I'm asking you to be smart. I am being smart. Are you? Diane challenged. Because from where I'm standing, you're putting her in an impossible position. People are going to assume she slept her way to the top. They're going to question every decision she makes. Every success will be because of you. Every failure will be her fault. And you're okay with that? Adrian didn't answer. Because he wasn't. But he didn't know how to fix it. Diane's expression softened. I like her, Adrian. I do. She's smart. She's hardworking. She cares. But this isn't fair to her, and you know it. She left. Adrian sat down and stared at the wall. He knew Diane was right. He just didn't know what to do about it. That night, he told Elena what Diane had said. They were sitting on his couch, Liam asleep upstairs, the city lights twinkling outside. Elena listened without interrupting. And when he finished, she was quiet for a long time. She's right, Elena said finally. I know. People are going to talk. They're going to say I only got the outreach program because I'm sleeping with you. That's not true. Doesn't matter, Elena said. They'll say it anyway. Adrian turned to face her. So what do we do? Elena looked at him, and there was something tired in her eyes, something resigned. I don't know, she said. I don't know if there's anything we can do. We could go public, make it official, show people it's real. That'll just make it worse. Then what? Elena shook her head. Maybe Diane's right. Maybe this is a bad idea. Adrian's stomach dropped. You don't mean that. I don't know what I mean, Elena said. I don't want to be the woman who slept her way to the top. I don't want people to look at the outreach program and assume it only exists because I'm with you. I don't want... Her voice cracked. Adrian pulled her into his arms. Listen to me, he said quietly. You didn't sleep your way anywhere. You earned this. Every single part of it. The job, the program, all of it. And anyone who says otherwise is an idiot. But they will say it, Elena whispered. You know they will. Let them, Adrian said. I don't care. I do. And that, Adrian realized, was the problem. Because Elena cared what people thought, cared about proving herself, cared about being more than just the woman Adrian Cole saved. And he didn't know how to give her that while also being with her. They sat there in silence, holding each other, and Adrian felt the future crack. The breaking point came 3 days later. Adrian was in a board meeting when his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He almost ignored it. Then he saw the attachment, a photo. Him and Elena, kissing in the parking garage. The caption read, Thought the board might be interested in how their CEO spends company time. Adrian's blood went cold. He excused himself from the meeting and called Diane. We have a problem, he said. She was in his office 10 minutes later. Adrian showed her the photo. Diane swore under her breath. Who sent this? She asked. I don't know. Does Elena know? Not yet. Diane paced. This is bad, Adrian. If this gets out, it won't. You don't know that. I'll handle it. How? Adrian didn't have an answer, because there was no handling this. Someone had a photo. Someone with an agenda, and they were going to use it. The only question was when. Elena found out 2 hours later when the photo showed up in her email. Same message, same threat. She came to Adrian's office, pale and shaking. We need to talk, she said. Adrian closed his laptop. I know. This is exactly what Diane said would happen. I know. So what do we do? Adrian stood, walked over to her, took her hands. We don't let them win, he said. How? We tell the truth. We go to the board. We explain, and then what? Elena interrupted. They fire me, or they make me resign, or they keep me on, but everyone knows I'm only there because of you, and the outreach program dies because no one will take it seriously anymore. That won't happen. You don't know that. Adrian didn't, and the helplessness of it made him want to break something. Elena pulled her hands free. I need to think, she said. Elena, please. She left. And Adrian stood alone in his office, staring at the photo on his phone, and wondered if Diane had been right all along. Elena didn't come to work the next day, or the day after that. Adrian called, texted, got nothing back. On the third day, he went to her apartment. She answered the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, her hair in a messy bun, her eyes red. "Hi," she said quietly. "Can I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment was small, cramped, nothing like Adrian's penthouse, but it was warm, lived in. There were photos on the walls, books on the shelves, a blanket draped over the couch. It looked like home. "I've been worried about you," Adrian said. "I'm fine." "You're not." Elena sat down on the couch. Adrian sat beside her. "I've been thinking," she said, "about us, about what this means, about whether we can actually do this." Adrian's chest tightened. "And?" "I don't know," Elena said. "I want to be with you. I do. But I also want to be my own person. I want people to respect me for what I do, not who I'm sleeping with. And I don't know if I can have both." "You can." "How?" Adrian didn't have an answer, because he didn't know either. "What if I quit?" Elena said suddenly. Adrian stared at her. "What? What if I quit Cole Enterprises? Find another job? Keep working on outreach stuff, but independently. No connection to you professionally." "Elena, then it wouldn't matter what people say. We could be together, and no one could accuse me of using you." "You'd be giving up everything you've built." "I'd be protecting it," Elena said. "Because if this photo gets out, the program dies anyway. At least this way I control the narrative." Adrian shook his head. "You shouldn't have to choose." "But I do," Elena said softly. "We both do." They sat there, the weight of it pressing down on them. And Adrian realized she was right. They couldn't have both, not like this, not yet. "What if we wait?" he said finally. Elena looked at him. "Wait?" "Give it time. Let the outreach program get established. Let people see what you've done. Then, when it's undeniable that you earned your place, we go public." "How long?" "I don't know. 6 months? A year? However long it takes." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "You'd wait?" "For you?" Adrian said. "Yeah, I would." She leaned into him and he wrapped his arms around her. "This is insane," she whispered. "I know. I hate this. Me too." But they both knew it was the only way. So they waited. And it was the hardest thing Adrian had ever done. Waiting turned out to be a special kind of torture. They saw each other every day at work, passed in hallways, sat in meetings, exchanged emails that were carefully professional and completely devoid of anything real. Adrian would watch Elena present updates to the board, her voice steady and confident, and have to sit there pretending his heart wasn't trying to climb out of his chest. Elena would catch his eye across a conference table and have to look away before anyone noticed the way her breath hitched. It was excruciating, and it got worse, because the photo never went public, but the threat remained. Whoever had sent it was waiting, watching, and that invisible sword hung over their heads every single day. Adrian hired a private investigator to trace the number. Got nothing. Burner phone. Purchased with cash. No digital trail. Someone smart. Someone patient. Someone who wanted to hurt them. 3 weeks into their forced distance, Elena's mother took a turn for the worse. Adrian found out from Diane, who'd heard it from someone in HR, who'd heard it from Elena's emergency contact form. He called Elena immediately. She didn't answer. He tried again. And again. Finally, at 11 at night, she called back. "I'm sorry," she said. Her voice was raw, exhausted. "I couldn't talk earlier." "What happened?" "Infection. Her immune system's compromised from the chemo. They've got her on antibiotics, but..." Elena's voice cracked. "They don't know if it's going to work." Adrian's chest constricted. "Where are you?" "Hospital. I've been here since this morning." "Which hospital?" "Adrian, which hospital, Elena?" She told him. He was there in 20 minutes. He found her in the waiting room on the 4th floor, curled up in a plastic chair that looked like it had been designed specifically to prevent comfort. She had a cold cup of coffee in her hands. Her eyes were hollow. "You came," she said. "Of course I came." Adrian sat beside her, wanted to pull her into his arms, wanted to hold her until the shaking stopped. But there were other people in the waiting room, nurses walking by, doctors making rounds. So he just sat there, close enough that their shoulders touched. Tell me what they said, Adrian said quietly. Elena stared at the coffee cup. The infection's in her lungs. They're treating it aggressively, but her body's already so weak from the chemo. Dr. Okonkwo says the next 48 hours are critical. What do you need? I don't know. Elena. She looked at him and there were tears on her cheeks. I need her to live, and I can't make that happen. No amount of money or connections or... Her voice broke. I can't fix this. Adrian took the coffee cup from her hands and set it on the floor. Then, very carefully, he took her hand. You're not alone, he said. We're not supposed to. I don't care. Elena's fingers tightened around his. Someone might see. Let them. She leaned into him then, just slightly, and Adrian felt her exhale. They sat like that for hours, until a doctor came out and told Elena her mother was stable. Not better, not out of danger, but stable. Elena cried. Adrian held her, and he didn't let go until she was ready. The next morning, Adrian showed up at the hospital again with breakfast and a change of clothes. Elena stared at him. You brought me clothes? You've been wearing the same thing for 24 hours. How did you even... I called your neighbor, Mrs. Chen. She has your spare key. Elena looked at the bag, then at him. You talked to Mrs. Chen? For about 45 minutes. She's very concerned about your eating habits and wanted to make sure I knew you don't like mushrooms. Despite everything, Elena laughed. It was small and broken, but it was real. Thank you, she said softly. Don't thank me yet. I also brought Liam. Elena's eyes widened. What? He wanted to come. He made your mom a card. Adrian, you can't. A hospital is no place for a kid. He's in the cafeteria with Marcus. I told him we'd come get him when you were ready. Adrian paused. If you don't want him here, that's fine. But he asked, and I thought maybe, I want him here, Elena said quietly. So Adrian went downstairs and came back with Liam, who was clutching a piece of construction paper covered in crayon drawings of flowers. Hi, Elena, Liam said shyly. Hi, buddy. I made this for your mom. Dad says she's sick. She is. My dad says flowers make people feel better, even paper ones. Elena knelt down so she was eye level with him. You know what? I think you're right. Liam beamed, and for the first time in 2 days, Elena looked like she could breathe. They stayed for another hour. Liam chattered about kindergarten and soccer and a girl named Sophie who could do a cartwheel. Elena listened and smiled and held his hand. Adrian watched them and felt something settle in his chest. This was right. Messy and complicated and completely against the rules. But right. When visiting hours ended, Adrian drove Elena home. She was quiet in the car, staring out the window. You okay? Adrian asked. I don't know. That's fair. I'm tired, Elena said. I'm so tired of being scared. Adrian pulled up in front of her building but didn't unlock the doors. What are you scared of? He asked. Elena turned to look at him. Losing her. Losing you. Losing myself. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Take your pick. You're not going to lose me. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Adrian, I love you, he said. The words hung in the air between them. Elena's breath caught. What? I love you, Adrian repeated. I should have said it weeks ago. I should have said it that night in my apartment, but I was scared, and I thought waiting was the right thing to do. But I can't wait anymore, not for this. Elena stared at him, her eyes wide and wet. You can't just... I can, Adrian said, and I am. I love you, and I don't care who knows. I don't care about the photo or the board or what people think. I care about you. This is a bad idea, Elena whispered. Probably the worst I've ever had. People will talk. Let them. You'll regret it. I won't. Elena closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, there was something that looked like surrender. I love you too, she said. Adrian leaned across the console and kissed her. It was different this time. No hesitation, no fear, just certainty. When they pulled apart, Elena was crying. What do we do now? She asked. Whatever we want. Adrian said. But wanting and doing turned out to be two very different things, because the next morning, Adrian's ex-fiancée walked into his office. Her name was Vanessa Hartley. She was 34, a corporate lawyer, and the last person Adrian had tried to build a life with before his wife died. It had ended badly. She hadn't taken it well. And now she was standing in front of his desk, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people's cars, and smiling like a shark. "Hello, Adrian," she said. "Vanessa." He didn't stand, didn't offer her a seat. "What do you want?" "Is that any way to greet an old friend?" "We're not friends." "No," Vanessa agreed. "We're not. But we were more than that once. Or have you forgotten?" Adrian's jaw tightened. "I haven't forgotten. What do you want?" Vanessa walked over to the window and looked out at the city. "I've been following your career, very impressive. The outreach program in particular, such a noble cause. Get to the point." She turned, and there was something cold in her eyes. "I met your new assistant. Elena, is it? Sweet girl. A little, plain. But I suppose that's what you're into these days." Adrian stood. "You need to leave. I also met someone very interesting at a fundraiser last week. They had a photograph, you and Elena, very intimate." Adrian's blood went cold. "It was you," he said. Vanessa smiled. "I didn't take the photo, but I did buy it. For quite a lot of money, actually. What do you want?" "The same thing I've always wanted," Vanessa said. "Respect, acknowledgement, an apology for the way you ended things." "I'm not apologizing for—" "Then I'll release the photo," Vanessa said simply. "To the press, to the board, to anyone who'll listen. And I'll make sure everyone knows that the great Adrian Cole is sleeping with his charity case employee." Adrian's hands clenched into fists. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Vanessa pulled out her phone, showed him the photo. "One click, Adrian. That's all it takes." "Why are you doing this?" "Because you humiliated me," Vanessa said. Her voice was calm, but there was venom underneath. "You ended our engagement 2 weeks before the wedding. You told me I wasn't enough, that you couldn't love me the way I deserved, and then you moved on like I never mattered. That was 6 years ago. Some wounds don't heal." Adrian stared at her. "What do you want?" "An apology. Public, at the charity gala next month. You'll announce that our breakup was your fault, that you made a mistake. And you'll donate $10 million to my foundation in my name." "That's extortion. That's business," Vanessa corrected. "You have 48 hours to decide. After that, the photo goes public, and your little waitress will spend the rest of her career being known as the woman who slept her way into a billionaire's bed." She walked out. Adrian stood there, shaking with rage, and knew he was trapped. He told Elena that night. They were at his apartment. Liam was asleep. The city was quiet. Elena listened without interrupting, and when he finished, she was silent for a long time. "So what are you going to do, Westy?" she asked finally. "I don't know." "Yes, you do." Adrian looked at her. "What?" "You're going to give her what she wants," Elena said. "You're going to apologize, donate the money, protect me." "Elena, it's the smart play, Adrian, you know it is." "I'm not going to let her win." "She already has," Elena said quietly. "The second she bought that photo, she won. Now it's just about damage control." Adrian shook his head. "There has to be another way." "There isn't. I'll fight her. And what happens to me while you're fighting?" Elena interrupted. "What happens to the outreach program? To my reputation? To any chance I have of being taken seriously?" Adrian didn't have an answer, because she was right. "I hate this," he said. "Me too." Elena stood and walked over to the window. Adrian followed. "What if we just release it ourselves?" she said. "The photo. What if we beat her to it?" "That won't change anything." "It'll change the narrative. If we control the story, we control the damage." Adrian considered it. "It's risky. Everything about this is risky." "You'd be okay with that? With everyone knowing?" Elena turned to face him. "I'd be okay with not hiding anymore. I'm tired, Adrian. I'm tired of pretending. I'm tired of being scared. I'm tired of letting people like Vanessa have power over me." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we stop playing their game," Elena said. "We tell the truth. We own it. And we let people think whatever they're going to think." Adrian stared at her. You're sure? No, Elena admitted. But I'm tired of being sure. I just want to be honest. Adrian pulled her into his arms, and for the first time in weeks, he felt like he could breathe. They released the photo themselves 2 days later. Not to the press, not to the board, to the company. Adrian called an all-hands meeting. Every employee, every department. He stood in front of 300 people and told them the truth. That he and Elena were together. That it had started after she was hired, not before. That he understood it looked complicated, but that everything Elena had accomplished, she'd accomplished on her own merit. The room was silent. Then Elena stood. She walked to the front and stood beside Adrian. I know what you're thinking, she said. Her voice was steady. You're thinking I slept my way to the top. That I used Adrian to get ahead. That I don't deserve to be here. Someone in the back shifted uncomfortably. And maybe some of that's true, Elena continued. Maybe I got lucky. Maybe Adrian saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. Maybe if we'd never met, I'd still be washing dishes at 3 a.m. She paused. But I'm here now, and I've worked my ass off to prove I belong. The outreach program exists because I built it. The partnerships exist because I made them. The lives we've changed exist because I showed up every single day and refused to quit. Her voice grew stronger. So yeah, I'm dating my boss. And yeah, that's complicated. And yeah, some of you are going to judge me for it. But I'm not going to apologize, because I earned my place here, and I'm not going anywhere. The room was silent for a beat. Then someone in the middle started clapping. Then someone else. Then the whole room. Adrian looked at Elena, and she looked back, and they both smiled. But the victory was short-lived, because that afternoon Vanessa released the photo anyway. Not just to the company, to every major news outlet in the city. The headline read, Billionaire CEO, Adrian Cole, in relationship with former Waitress employee. The article was brutal. It questioned Elena's qualifications, implied impropriety, suggested the outreach program was nothing more than a vanity project designed to impress Adrian's girlfriend. Elena read it in Adrian's office, her hands shaking. They're destroying me, she whispered. No, they're not. Did you read this? They're calling me a gold digger, a con artist. They're saying I manipulated you. And we'll fight back. How? Elena looked at him, and there was despair in her eyes. How do we fight this, Adrian? They have the narrative. They have the power. We have nothing. We have the truth. The truth doesn't matter, Elena said. Not to them. Adrian wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she was wrong, but he couldn't, because she wasn't. The backlash was immediate and vicious. The board called an emergency meeting. Investors sent concerned emails. Partners started asking questions. And through it all, Elena held her head high. She showed up to work every day, ran her meetings, led her team, refused to hide. But Adrian could see the toll it was taking, the way her hands shook when she thought no one was looking, the way she stopped eating lunch, the way she stared at her computer screen like she was waiting for the next blow to fall. 2 weeks after the story broke, Elena's mother was released from the hospital. The infection had cleared. The treatment was working. She was going to be okay. Elena should have been relieved. Instead, she fell apart. Adrian found her in the parking garage at midnight, sitting in her car, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. He got in the passenger seat and didn't say anything, just sat there while she cried. When she finally stopped, her voice was hoarse. I can't do this anymore, she said. Can't do what? This, us, any of it. Adrian's stomach dropped. Elena, I'm drowning, Adrian. Every day, I wake up and I see another article or another comment or another person looking at me like I'm a joke. And I keep telling myself it'll get better, that people will see the truth. But it's not getting better, it's getting worse. So we wait it out. I don't want to wait, Elena said. I don't want to spend the rest of my life proving I'm more than the woman you saved. I don't want to be a story people tell at dinner parties. I don't want... She stopped, took a shaky breath. I don't want to be with you if it means losing myself. The words hit Adrian like a physical blow. You're not losing yourself, he said. I already have. Elena, please, I love you, she said. But I can't do this. Not like this. Adrian felt something crack inside his chest. What are you saying? Elena looked at him, and her eyes were red and swollen and full of pain. "I'm saying we need to stop," she said, "for a while. Until things calm down. Until I can figure out who I am without you." "That's not—" "Please," Elena whispered. "Please don't make this harder than it already is." Adrian wanted to fight, wanted to argue, wanted to tell her she was wrong, but he looked at her, really looked at her, and saw how broken she was. And he realized that sometimes loving someone meant letting them go. "Okay," he said quietly. Elena's face crumpled. "Okay? Yeah, if that's what you need." "Okay." She reached for his hand, squeezed it once, then she let go. And Adrian sat there in the dark, alone, feeling like his entire world had just collapsed. The next day, Elena submitted her resignation. Adrian refused to accept it. "You're not quitting," he said. "I already did." "I'm not accepting it." Elena stood on the other side of his desk, her arms crossed. "You don't have a choice." "Yes, I do. And I'm not letting you walk away from everything you've built because people are cruel." "I'm not walking away from the work," Elena said. "I'm walking away from this. From you. From the impossible situation we've created." "Elena, I've already found another position," she said. "A nonprofit downtown. They want me to run their community programs. It's less money, but it's mine. No one can say I didn't earn it." Adrian felt like he'd been punched. "When do you start?" 2 weeks. "And us?" Elena's expression softened. "There is no us. Not right now. Maybe not ever." "You don't mean that." "I do," Elena said. "Because as long as we're together, I'll always be the waitress you saved, and I need to be more than that. For me." Adrian wanted to argue, wanted to beg, wanted to tell her she was already more than that, but he knew she wouldn't believe him, so he just nodded. "I'm sorry," he said. "Me too." Elena walked out, and Adrian stood alone in his office, staring at the resignation letter on his desk, and wondered how everything had gone so wrong. The following weeks were the worst of Adrian's life. Elena cleaned out her desk, said goodbye to her team, handed off the outreach program to her successor, and through it all, Adrian watched from a distance, helpless. On her last day, he found her in the empty conference room where they'd had their first real conversation. "Hey," he said. "Hey, I just wanted to say—" Adrian stopped, started over. "I wanted to say I'm proud of you for everything you've done, everything you're going to do." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. And I'm sorry for putting you in this position, for not protecting you better." "You tried." "Not hard enough." Elena shook her head. "This isn't your fault, Adrian. It's life. It's messy and complicated, and sometimes there's no good answer." "I wish there was." "Me too." They stood there in silence. Then Elena picked up her box and walked toward the door. She stopped in the doorway and turned back. "For what it's worth," she said quietly, "I don't regret it. Any of it. Even this." Adrian's throat tightened. "Me neither." Elena smiled, small, sad. Then she left, and Adrian stood alone in the empty room, feeling the weight of everything they'd lost. That night, he went home and poured himself a drink, then another. Then he sat on the floor of his study and cried for the first time since his wife died. Liam found him there an hour later. "Dad?" Adrian wiped his eyes quickly. "Hey, buddy. Are you okay?" "Yeah, just tired." Liam sat down beside him. "Is Elena coming over?" Adrian's chest tightened. "Not tonight." "Is she coming over tomorrow?" "I don't know." "Did you have a fight?" Adrian looked at his son. 5 years old, too young to understand, too smart to be fooled. "Yeah," Adrian said. "We had a fight. Are you going to make up?" "I hope so." Liam leaned against him. "I miss her." "Me too, buddy," Adrian said. "Me too." They sat there together, father and son, and Adrian realized that somehow, without meaning to, Elena had become part of both their lives, and losing her hurt worse than anything he'd ever felt. 2 months passed. Adrian threw himself into work, expanded the outreach program, launched new initiatives, made appearances, cut ribbons, smiled for cameras, and felt absolutely nothing. Diane watched him with worried eyes. "You need to talk to her," she said one afternoon. "She doesn't want to talk to me." "How do you know?" "Because she hasn't called, hasn't texted, hasn't reached out once." "Have you?" Adrian didn't answer. "Adrian, what do you want me to say, Diane? That I miss her? That I think about her every single day? That I wake up and reach for my phone hoping there's a message and there never is?" "Yes," Diane said. "I want you to say that, to her." "It won't change anything." "You don't know that." Adrian shook his head. "She made her choice. I have to respect that." Diane sighed. "You're both idiots." "Probably. She's miserable too, you know." Adrian looked up. "How do you know?" "Because I ran into her last week. At a coffee shop. She looked terrible. Asked about you, asked about Liam. Looked like she was about to cry the whole time." Adrian's heart clenched. "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That you're miserable. That Liam asks about her every day. That the penthouse feels like a tomb." "Diane, someone had to," Diane said. "Because you two are too stubborn to admit you made a mistake." "It wasn't a mistake," Adrian said quietly. "She needed space. I gave it to her." "And now what?" "I don't know." Diane stood. "Figure it out, Adrian. Because life's too short to spend it being miserable when the person you love is just across town being equally miserable." She left. Adrian sat there, staring at nothing, and wondered if she was right. That night, he did something he hadn't done in months. He drove to the diner. It was 3 a.m, the same time he'd first walked in all those months ago. The place looked exactly the same. Flickering neon, cracked vinyl, windows fogged from the inside, but Elena wasn't there. Of course she wasn't. Adrian sat at the counter anyway, ordered coffee from a tired waitress who looked nothing like Elena, and he wondered if this was it, if this was how the story ended. Two people who loved each other, separated by pride and fear and the weight of other people's opinions. He was about to leave when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, then something made him pick up. "Hello? Adrian?" His heart stopped. "Elena?" "Yeah, it's me." Her voice was shaky, uncertain. "I'm sorry for calling so late. I couldn't sleep and I kept thinking about you, and I know we're not supposed to talk, but where are you?" Adrian interrupted. "Home. Why?" "I'm coming over." "Adrian, it's 3 a.m. "I don't care." Silence. Then, so quietly he almost didn't hear it, "Okay." Adrian threw money on the counter and ran. Adrian made it to Elena's apartment in 12 minutes, which was either a miracle or several traffic violations Marcus would never admit to. He took the stairs 2 at a time, his heart hammering against his ribs, and knocked on her door. She opened it immediately, like she'd been waiting on the other side. They stared at each other. Elena looked different, thinner, tired. Her hair was down, messy around her shoulders. She was wearing an old sweatshirt and pajama pants, and her eyes were red like she'd been crying. She was the most beautiful thing Adrian had ever seen. "Hi," she said. "Hi." Neither of them moved. "You want to come in?" Elena asked finally. Adrian stepped inside. The apartment was exactly as he remembered it. Small, warm, home. Elena closed the door and leaned against it. "I shouldn't have called," she said. "I'm glad you did. I was lying in bed, and I kept thinking about that night, at the diner, when you first walked in, and I started wondering what would have happened if I'd told you to leave, if I'd stuck to my guns and refused to make you coffee." "I would have left," Adrian said, "and we never would have met, and you'd probably still be there washing dishes at 3 a.m. "Maybe. Definitely." Elena's lips twitched, almost a smile. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." She shook her head. "I've been trying to figure out if meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me or the worst." Adrian's chest tightened. "And?" "I still don't know," Elena admitted. "Because you changed my life. You saved my mom. You gave me opportunities I never would have had. But you also—" She stopped, swallowed hard. "You also made me feel things I wasn't ready to feel. And want things I didn't know how to want. And now I don't know how to go back to who I was before." "Maybe you're not supposed to go back," Adrian said quietly. "Then who am I supposed to be?" "I don't know." but I know you'll figure it out. Elena looked at him, and there was something raw in her expression. I miss you. The words hung between them. I miss you too, Adrian said, every single day. Liam asks about you constantly, wants to know when you're coming over, when we can play cards again, if you'll come to his next soccer game. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I didn't mean to hurt him. I know. I needed space. I needed to figure out who I was without you, without Cole Enterprises, without all of it. And did you? Adrian asked. Figure it out? Elena laughed, but it sounded broken. No, I just figured out that being without you is worse than dealing with everything else. Adrian stepped forward. Elena, but I'm still scared, she said quickly. I'm still terrified that if we do this again, I'll lose myself, that I'll become Adrian Cole's girlfriend and nothing else, that everything I've worked for will disappear. It won't. You don't know that. Yes, I do, Adrian said, because I've watched you build something incredible. I've seen you stand in front of rooms full of people who doubted you and proved them wrong. I've seen you fight for what you believe in even when it would have been easier to quit. You're not someone who disappears, Elena. You're someone who shows up. Elena wiped her eyes. You really believe that? With everything I have. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she closed the distance between them and kissed him. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate and messy and tasted like salt from her tears. Adrian's hands found her waist, pulled her closer, and Elena made a sound that was half sob, half laugh. When they broke apart, she was shaking. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Neither do I. What if we mess it up again? Then we mess it up, Adrian said, and we figure it out together. Elena looked up at him and there was hope in her eyes, fragile and terrified, but real. Together, she repeated. Yeah. She kissed him again, softer this time, like a promise. And for the first time in months, Adrian felt like he could breathe. They stayed up the rest of the night talking, not about the heavy things, not about Vanessa or the photo or the articles or any of it. They talked about Liam's soccer team, about Elena's new job, about a documentary she'd watched about octopuses, about nothing and everything. And it felt normal, like they were just two people who'd found each other and were trying to figure out how to make it work. When the sun started to rise, Elena made coffee and they sat on her tiny balcony watching the city wake up. I have to tell you something, Elena said. Adrian looked at her. Okay? My new job, the nonprofit downtown. Yeah? It's good, really good. The people are great, the work matters, but it's not, she paused. It's not the outreach program, it's not what we built together. You built that, Adrian said, not me. We built it, Elena corrected, and I miss it. I miss the team. I miss the work. You can come back, Adrian said. Elena shook her head. I can't. Not like before. Not as your employee. Then come back as a partner. She frowned. What? The outreach program needs a director, someone who knows it inside and out, someone the team trusts, someone who actually gives a damn. Adrian leaned forward. Come back. Not to work for me, to work with me. Equal partnership, your program, your decisions. I'll fund it, but you run it. Elena stared at him. Are you serious? Completely. Adrian, that's a huge commitment. I know. And people will still talk. Let them. You're sure? Adrian took her hand. I've never been more sure of anything. Elena's eyes filled with tears again. You're going to make me cry. Is that a yes? She laughed and wiped her face. That's a yes. Adrian pulled her into his arms, and she buried her face in his chest. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For not giving up on me. Never, Adrian said. They sat there as the sun climbed higher, and Adrian felt something settle in his chest. This was right. Messy and complicated and completely terrifying. But right. The next morning, Adrian woke up in Elena's bed. She was curled against his side, her hair spread across the pillow, her breathing slow and even. He watched her sleep and felt his heart do something complicated. This was the woman who'd walked into his life at 3 a.m. and turned everything upside down. The woman who'd challenged him, frustrated him, made him feel things he thought he'd buried with his wife. The woman he loved. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Diane. Where are you? You have a meeting in 20 minutes. Adrian swore quietly and carefully extracted himself from Elena's grip. She stirred. Where are you going? Meeting. I forgot. Elena sat up, rubbing her eyes. What time is it? 8:30. You're going to be late. I know. Go, Elena said. I'll still be here when you get back. Adrian kissed her. Promise? Promise. He got dressed, grabbed his keys, and headed for the door. Then he stopped and turned back. Move in with me, he said. Elena froze. What? Move in with me. You and your mom. There's plenty of space. She'll have access to better care. You won't have to commute. Liam would be thrilled. Adrian. Think about it, he said. Just think about it. Then he left before she could say no. He made it to the office with 3 minutes to spare. Diane took one look at him and raised an eyebrow. You're wearing yesterday's clothes. Am I? And you're smiling. Actual genuine smiling. What happened? Adrian sat down at his desk. Elena and I talked. And we're trying again. Diane's expression softened. Good. That's it? Just good? What do you want me to say? I told you to talk to her. You talked to her. Now you're together. I'm happy for you. Adrian studied her. You don't think it's a bad idea? I think it's complicated, Diane said, but I also think you're both adults who deserve to be happy. So yeah, good. She left. Adrian sat there for a moment, then pulled out his phone and texted Elena. I mean it. Think about it. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, I will. Adrian smiled and got to work. The meeting was with investors, standard quarterly review. Adrian half listened, gave his usual updates, answered the usual questions. Then one of them asked about the outreach program. I hear there's been some turnover, the man said. His name was Richard something. Adrian couldn't remember. The director left. How's that affecting operations? We're bringing her back, Adrian said. Richard frowned. The waitress? Adrian's jaw tightened. Her name is Elena Brooks, and she built that program from the ground up. She's the best person for the job. But the optics are fine, Adrian said. Elena has proven herself 10 times over. The program is thriving because of her work. And I'm not going to let gossip dictate business decisions. Richard looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Adrian's expression made him think better of it. Of course, he said. I'm sure she's very qualified. The meeting ended shortly after. Diane caught up with Adrian in the hallway. That was quite a defense, she said. He called her the waitress. I know. Like she's not a person. Like she didn't work her ass off. I know, Diane repeated, and you handled it. But you need to be prepared. That's not going to be the last time someone questions her credentials. Then I'll defend her every time. Diane smiled. I know you will. Just make sure she's okay with that. Adrian frowned. What do you mean? I mean, Elena spent months trying to prove she's more than the woman you saved. If you keep fighting her battles for her, you're going to undermine that. Adrian opened his mouth, closed it. She needs to fight her own fights, Diane said gently. And you need to let her. She walked away, leaving Adrian standing in the hallway, feeling like he'd just failed a test he didn't know he was taking. That night, he went back to Elena's apartment. She answered the door in yoga pants and a tank top, her hair pulled back, looking more relaxed than he'd seen her in months. Hey, she said. Hey, can we talk? That's never a good opening. Adrian stepped inside. I defended you today, in a meeting. One of the investors called you the waitress, and I told him you were the best person for the job. Elena's expression shifted. Okay. And Diane said I shouldn't have done that I should let you fight your own battles. She's right. Adrian blinked. What? She's right, Elena repeated. I appreciate you defending me, really, but if you keep doing it, people are never going to see me as anything other than the woman you're protecting. So what am I supposed to do? Just let them talk? Yes, Elena said. Let them talk, and let me prove them wrong. Adrian shook his head. I don't know if I can do that. You have to. Why? Because I need to stand on my own, Elena said. I need people to see me as competent and capable without you stepping in every time someone questions me. Otherwise, I'll always be Adrian's girlfriend instead of Elena. Adrian's chest tightened. I just want to protect you. I know, but I don't need protection. I need space to fail and succeed on my own terms. And if you fail? Then I fail, Elena said, and I learn from it. And I try again, just like everyone else. Adrian stared at her. You're really okay with that? I have to be. He sat down on her couch. Elena sat beside him. This is harder than I thought it would be, Adrian admitted. What is? Loving you without trying to fix everything. Elena took his hand. I don't need you to fix everything. I just need you to believe in me. I do believe in you. Then show me by stepping back. Adrian looked at their joined hands. I'll try. That's all I'm asking. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Elena said, I talked to my mom about moving in with you. Adrian's heart jumped. And? She thinks I'm crazy. In a good way or a bad way? Elena smiled. In a you barely know this man way, but also in a he makes you happy and life's too short way. So? So I'm still thinking about it, Elena said. It's a big step. I know. And I don't want to rush into something just because it feels good right now. I'm not asking you to rush, Adrian said. I'm asking you to consider it. Take your time. Think it through. But know that I want you there. Both of you. Elena leaned her head on his shoulder. You're really okay with my mom living with you? Your mom is great. She's nosy and opinionated, and she'll probably rearrange your entire kitchen. Sounds perfect, Elena laughed. You say that now. I mean it. She looked up at him. Why are you doing this? Because I love you, Adrian said simply. And because I want to build a life with you. A real one. Not just stolen moments and secret meetings. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want Liam to have you in his life every day. I want... He stopped, took a breath. I want a family, he said quietly. I had one once, and I lost it, and I thought that was it for me. But then you walked into that diner, and suddenly I could see it again. A future, a home, something worth fighting for. Elena's eyes were wet. That's a lot of pressure. I know. What if I can't be what you need? You already are. She kissed him then, slow and deep and full of promise. And when they broke apart, she whispered, Ask me again in a month. About moving in? Yeah. Adrian smiled. I can do that. The following weeks were a strange kind of wonderful. Adrian and Elena were together, but carefully, deliberately. They had dinner a few times a week, went to Liam's soccer games, watched movies on her couch. But they also maintained boundaries. Elena kept her apartment. Adrian didn't push. They moved at a pace that felt sustainable instead of desperate. And slowly, things started to settle. Elena officially returned to Cole Enterprises as the director of the outreach program. Not as an employee, as a partner. The announcement was met with mixed reactions. Some people were supportive, some were skeptical. Some openly questioned whether she deserved it. Elena handled it with grace. She showed up every day, ran her meetings, made her decisions, and when people questioned her, she answered with data and results instead of defensiveness. Adrian watched from a distance and tried not to interfere. It was the hardest thing he'd ever done. But he did it. Because Elena was right. She needed to prove herself on her own terms. And she was doing it. One afternoon, about 6 weeks after they'd gotten back together, Adrian got a call from his father. He hadn't spoken to his father in 3 years. Not since the funeral. Not since the old man had shown up drunk and told Adrian his wife's death was karma for abandoning the family business. Adrian stared at the phone for a long moment. Then he answered. Hello? Adrian. His father's voice was rough, older than Adrian remembered. It's me. I know. Silence. I'm in town, his father said finally. I was hoping we could talk. About what? About everything, about nothing. I don't know. I'd like to see you. Adrian's first instinct was to say no, to hang up, to go back to the comfortable distance they'd maintained for years. But then he thought about Elena, about second chances, about the way holding grudges only hurt the person holding them. Okay, he said. Okay? Yeah, when? His father sounded surprised. Tomorrow? Lunch? I'll text you the address. Adrian hung up and immediately regretted it. Elena found him an hour later, staring at his computer without seeing it. "You okay?" she asked. "My father called." She sat down across from him. "And?" "And I agreed to have lunch with him tomorrow. How do you feel about that?" "I have no idea." Elena was quiet for a moment, then she said, "Do you want me to come with you?" Adrian looked up. "What?" "To lunch. Do you want me there?" "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to," Elena said, "but you've been there for every hard thing in my life for the past year. Let me be there for one of yours." Adrian's throat tightened. "You'd do that?" "Of course. He's not easy. Neither is my mom, and you handled her fine." Adrian smiled despite himself. "Your mom is delightful." "My mom asked if you were circumcised." "She was curious." Elena laughed. "She was testing you, and you passed. So you'll come?" "If you want me to." Adrian reached across the desk and took her hand. "Yeah, I want you to." The next day they met Adrian's father at a quiet restaurant in Midtown. He was already there when they arrived, sitting at a corner table, nursing a glass of water, looking older and smaller than Adrian remembered. Thomas Cole had been a force once, a real estate developer who'd built half of Brooklyn before the market crashed and took everything with it. Now he looked like a man who'd spent too many years fighting battles he couldn't win. He stood when he saw Adrian. "Son," he said. "Dad." Adrian shook his hand, stiff, formal. "This is Elena." Thomas looked at her, and his expression shifted, softened. "The waitress," he said. Adrian tensed, but Elena just smiled. "Former waitress," she said. "Current pain in your son's ass." Thomas laughed, actually laughed. "I like her already." They sat down, ordered food, made awkward small talk about the weather and the traffic and nothing that mattered. Then Thomas set down his fork and looked at Adrian. "I owe you an apology," he said. Adrian froze. "I was wrong," Thomas continued. "At the funeral. What I said, how I acted, all of it. I was drunk and angry, and I blamed you for things that weren't your fault." "Dad, let me finish." Thomas's voice was steady. "I've spent the last 3 years thinking about that day, about the things I said. And I want you to know I didn't mean them. Your wife's death wasn't karma. It was a tragedy, and you didn't deserve to hear that from anyone, least of all your father." Adrian didn't know what to say. "I'm sorry," Thomas said quietly. "For that. And for a lot of other things. For not being there when you needed me. For letting my own failures poison our relationship. For choosing pride over family." Adrian's chest felt tight. "Why now?" "Because I'm getting old," Thomas said. "And I'm tired of being angry. And I don't want to die without at least trying to fix this." Adrian looked at Elena. She gave him a small nod. "Okay," Adrian said. Thomas blinked. "Okay? Yeah, I accept your apology." "Just like that?" "Just like that," Adrian said. "But I need you to know, I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago. I have a son. I have responsibilities. I have—" He glanced at Elena. "I have a life," he finished, "and I'm not going to let you back in if you're just going to blow it up again." Thomas nodded slowly. "That's fair. So if we're going to do this, we do it right. No more drinking, no more showing up unannounced, no more—" "I've been sober for 18 months, Thomas interrupted. Adrian stopped. "What?" 18 months. AA meetings twice a week. Sponsor? The whole thing." "You're serious?" "Dead serious." Thomas pulled out his wallet and showed Adrian a sobriety chip. "I'm trying, Adrian, really trying, and I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'm asking for one anyway." Adrian stared at the chip, then at his father, and he saw something he hadn't seen in years. Hope. "Okay," Adrian said again. "Okay? Yeah, let's try." Thomas's eyes filled with tears. He wiped them quickly, embarrassed. "Thank you," he said. They finished lunch, talked about safer things, Liam's soccer, Elena's outreach program, Thomas's new apartment in Queens, and when they said goodbye, Thomas hugged Adrian, actually hugged him. Adrian stood there, awkward and stiff, and then slowly hugged back. When they pulled apart, Thomas looked at Elena. "Take care of him," he said. "I will," Elena said. "As long as he lets me." Thomas smiled. "Good." He left. Adrian stood on the sidewalk, watching his father disappear into the crowd, and felt something shift inside him. "You okay?" Elena asked. "I think so." That was big. "Yeah." She took his hand. "I'm proud of you." Adrian looked at her. "For what?" "For giving him a chance. That couldn't have been easy." "It wasn't," Adrian admitted. "But you were right. About second chances. About not holding grudges. I'm always right." He laughed. "Don't let it go to your head." They walked back to the car hand in hand, and Adrian realized something. For the first time in years, he felt like maybe everything was going to be okay. That night, Elena called him. "Hey," she said. "Hey, you okay?" "Yeah, I wanted to tell you something." "Okay." "My mom's cancer. The doctors did another scan today." Adrian's heart stopped. "And?" "Remission," Elena said, and her voice broke. "Complete remission." Adrian felt his knees go weak. "Elena?" "She's going to be okay," Elena whispered. "She's actually going to be okay." "I'm so happy for you," Adrian said, and he meant it with everything he had. Elena was crying now, happy tears, relieved tears. "I couldn't have done this without you," she said. "The treatment, the doctors, all of it. You saved her life." "No," Adrian said. "You saved her life by not giving up, by fighting for her every single day." "We both did," Elena said. "Together." "Together," Adrian agreed. They stayed on the phone for another hour, talking about nothing, about everything. And when they finally hung up, Adrian sat in his study and felt something he hadn't felt in a very long time. Peace. A month passed, and Adrian kept his promise. He didn't ask Elena about moving in, didn't push, didn't hint. He just showed up, consistently, patiently. He brought coffee on Sunday mornings, helped Elena's mother with groceries, went to every single one of Liam's soccer games with Elena by his side, and he watched her bloom. The outreach program was thriving. 3 new shelters funded, 2 mobile clinics operational, a scholarship program that had already helped 18 single parents go back to school. Elena's name was in the papers again, but this time for the right reasons. People stopped calling her the waitress and started calling her the director, started recognizing her work as her own, and Adrian stepped back and let her have it. It killed him sometimes, when investors questioned her decisions and he had to sit there silently instead of defending her. When board members challenged her budgets and he had to trust she could handle it. But she always did. With grace and data and a quiet confidence that made Adrian fall in love with her all over again. One night, they were at his apartment. Liam was asleep. The city lights twinkled outside. Elena was curled up on the couch, reading through grant proposals, and Adrian was watching her instead of the financial reports on his laptop. "You're staring," she said without looking up. "I know. It's distracting. Sorry." She set down her papers and looked at him. "What are you thinking about?" "You." "That's vague." "I'm thinking about how much I love watching you work," Adrian said. "How you get this little crease between your eyebrows when you're concentrating. How you chew on your pen when you're thinking. How you're the most competent person I've ever met, and you still don't quite believe it." Elena's cheeks flushed. "Stop." "Why?" "Because you're making it hard to focus." Adrian closed his laptop and moved to sit beside her. "Then don't focus. I have 3 proposals to review before tomorrow. They can wait." "Adrian?" He kissed her, slow and deep and unhurried. Elena made a small sound and kissed him back, her hands finding his hair, and the grant proposals slid forgotten to the floor. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Elena said, "That was unfair." "Was it?" "Completely." Adrian smiled and pulled her into his lap. "Ask me what day it is." Elena frowned. "What?" "Ask me what day it is." "It's Thursday." "It's been a month," Adrian said, "since I asked you to move in. You said to ask again in a month." Elena's breath caught. "I did say that. So I'm asking." Adrian looked at her, and his voice was steady. "Move in with me. You and your mom. Be here. Every day. Wake up next to me. Have breakfast with Liam. Fill this place with your books. and your terrible taste in reality TV and your mom's nosy questions. Elena's eyes filled with tears. You really want this? More than anything. It's going to be messy. My mom's going to reorganize your entire kitchen. Liam's going to have questions. People are still going to talk. I know. And I'm still going to need my space sometimes. Still going to need to prove myself. I know that too. Elena looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, Okay. Adrian's heart stopped. Okay? Yeah. She smiled through her tears. Let's do it. Adrian kissed her again, and this time it felt like a promise, like a beginning. Moving in was chaos. Elena's mother, Margaret, showed up with opinions about everything. The furniture arrangement, the color scheme, the complete lack of actual food in Adrian's refrigerator. How does a grown man live on takeout and protein shakes? She demanded, standing in the kitchen with her hands on her hips. Very efficiently, Adrian said. Margaret gave him a look that could have melted steel. We're going grocery shopping, now. 2 hours later, Adrian found himself pushing a cart through Whole Foods while Margaret filled it with vegetables he couldn't pronounce and lectured him about the importance of fiber. Elena trailed behind them, trying not to laugh. Your mother is terrifying, Adrian whispered. I know, Elena said cheerfully, but she likes you. How can you tell? She's only threatened to hurt you twice. That's basically love. Adrian looked at Margaret, who was now interrogating a clerk about the organic certification of the spinach, and wondered what he'd gotten himself into. But that night, when they all sat down to dinner together, him and Elena and Liam and Margaret, around the table in his penthouse that had never felt like home until now, Adrian realized he wouldn't change a thing. This was messy and loud and completely imperfect, and it was exactly what he'd been missing. Liam adapted to the new arrangement with the flexibility of a 5-year-old. Elena wasn't his mom, they were careful about that. But she was someone who made his dad smile. Someone who played cards with him and helped with homework and came to every soccer game. Someone who felt like family. One Saturday morning, Adrian found Liam in the kitchen with Elena, both of them covered in flour. What's happening here? Adrian asked. We're making pancakes, Liam announced. The fancy kind, with chocolate chips. I can see that. Elena grinned at him. Your son is a natural chef. My son is making a mess. It's the same thing. Liam giggled and dumped more flour into the bowl. Half of it missed. Adrian should have been annoyed. His kitchen was a disaster. There was batter on the ceiling. Instead, he grabbed his phone and took a picture. Because this was the life he'd wanted, the one he'd thought he'd lost forever. And somehow, impossibly, he'd found it again. The outreach program's 6-month review came in October. Elena presented to the board herself. No notes, no safety net, just her and a presentation she'd spent weeks perfecting. Adrian sat in the back of the conference room and watched her command the space. She was brilliant, confident, unshakable. She presented data on families helped, lives changed, communities strengthened. And when the board members asked their questions, some supportive, some challenging, some outright hostile, she answered every single one without flinching. At the end, the board voted unanimously to expand the program, double the budget, triple the reach. Elena walked out of that room with her head high, and Adrian met her in the hallway. You were incredible, he said. I was terrified. Couldn't tell. Elena laughed, and the sound was pure relief. I thought Henderson was going to eat me alive. Henderson always looks like that. He asked if I had any actual management experience. What did you say? I told him I've been managing impossible situations my entire life. This was just the first time someone paid me for it. Adrian grinned. And? And he laughed, actually laughed, then voted yes. See? Told you didn't need me to defend you. Elena looked at him, and there was something soft in her expression. I did need you, just not in the way I thought. I needed you to believe in me enough to let me fail. You didn't fail. I could have, Elena said, and you still would have let me try. That's what mattered. Adrian pulled her into his arms right there in the hallway, not caring who saw. I'm proud of you, he said. I'm proud of me too, Elena whispered. And Adrian knew that was exactly the point. That night, they celebrated, not with champagne and fancy dinners, with pizza on the living room floor and Liam between them, telling them about a kid at school who could burp the alphabet. Margaret sat in the armchair, pretending to be scandalized but smiling the whole time. And Adrian looked around at this strange, patched-together family and felt something settle in his chest. Contentment. He'd spent so many years chasing the next deal, the next success, the next thing that would prove he was enough. And he'd missed the point entirely. This was enough. This messy, imperfect, beautiful life. This was everything. 2 weeks later, Vanessa showed up at Adrian's office. He hadn't seen her since the photo incident, hadn't thought about her much either, but there she was, standing in his doorway like a ghost from a life he'd left behind. "What do you want?" Adrian asked. Vanessa stepped inside and closed the door. "I came to apologize." Adrian blinked. "What?" "I said some terrible things, did some terrible things, and I want to apologize." "Why now?" Vanessa sat down across from him. "Because I've been watching you, from a distance, and I realized something." "What?" "You're happy," she said simply. "Actually happy. And I tried to destroy that because I was miserable, and that was wrong." Adrian didn't know what to say. "Elena's good for you," Vanessa continued. "I can see it. The way you look at her, the way she looks at you. It's real, and I tried to ruin it because I couldn't stand seeing you have what I wanted." "Vanessa, I'm not asking for forgiveness," she said. "I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and that I'm done. No more games, no more threats. I'm letting it go." Adrian studied her. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I deleted the photo," Vanessa said. "And every copy I had. And I signed a legal agreement saying I'll never speak about your relationship publicly. My lawyer has it. You can verify." She pulled out a folder and slid it across the desk. Adrian opened it, read through the document. It was real. "What changed?" he asked. Vanessa smiled, but it was sad. "I got tired of being angry, tired of holding grudges, tired of wasting my life on revenge that didn't make me feel any better." She paused. "I'm seeing someone, a therapist. She's helping me work through some things." "That's good." "Yeah." Vanessa stood. "I won't bother you again. I just wanted to clear the air." She walked to the door, then stopped and turned back. "For what it's worth," she said, "I think you two are going to make it. You have something most people never find. Don't waste it." Then she left. Adrian sat there for a long time, staring at the legal agreement, and felt a weight lift. It was over, all of it. The threats, the fear, the sword hanging over their heads. Over. He called Elena immediately. "She came to see me," he said. "Who?" "Vanessa. She apologized, deleted the photo, signed an agreement promising to leave us alone." Silence on the other end. "Elena, is it really over?" she asked quietly. "Yeah, it's really over." Elena exhaled, and it sounded like she'd been holding that breath for months. "We're free," she said. "We're free." That weekend, they took Liam to the park. It was one of those perfect October days. Cool, but not cold. The leaves were turning. The sun was bright. Liam ran ahead, chasing pigeons, and Adrian and Elena walked hand in hand behind him. "I've been thinking," Elena said. "About? About what comes next." Adrian looked at her. "What do you mean?" "I mean, we've been so focused on surviving, on getting through the hard stuff. But what happens now, when things are actually good?" "We enjoy it," Adrian said. "Is that enough?" "Why wouldn't it be?" Elena was quiet for a moment. "I don't know. I guess I'm just not used to things being easy." "They're not easy," Adrian said. "They're just different. We still have challenges, work, family, Liam, your mom, my dad, the program, all of it." "I know. So what's really bothering you?" Elena stopped walking. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "That I'm going to mess this up, that I'm going to do something or say something or be something that ruins this. And I don't know if I can survive losing you again." Adrian turned to face her. "You're not going to lose me." "You don't know that." "Yes, I do," Adrian said, "because I'm not going anywhere. Not when things are hard. Not when you're scared. Not ever." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "How can you be so sure?" "Because I've already lost the most important person in my life once. Adrian said quietly. And I survived it. But it broke something in me, something I thought was gone forever. And then you walked into that diner at 3 in the morning and you put it back together. Not perfectly, not the same as before, but better, stronger. He cupped her face in his hands. You saved me, Elena, just as much as I saved you, and I'm not going to let go of that, not for anything. Elena kissed him then, right there in the middle of the park, with Liam shouting about pigeons in the background and the sun warm on their faces. And it felt like a promise, like forever. Thanksgiving came, and for the first time in years, Adrian's penthouse felt full. Elena and Margaret, Liam, Thomas, sober and trying and welcomed back into the fold. Diane, who'd been invited and looked genuinely touched. Marcus, who'd been driving Adrian around for 5 years and finally got to sit at the table instead of waiting in the car. It was loud and chaotic, and the turkey was slightly overcooked, and Margaret and Thomas got into an argument about politics that almost ended in thrown roles. It was perfect. After dinner, after Liam had fallen asleep on the couch and the adults were nursing coffee and pie, Thomas pulled Adrian aside. You've built something good here, he said. Thanks. I mean it. A real family. The kind I never gave you. Adrian looked at his father. You're here now. That's what matters. Thomas's eyes were wet. I don't deserve it. Probably not, Adrian said. But I'm giving it to you anyway. They stood there in comfortable silence, watching Elena and Margaret bicker over whether to watch football or a cooking show. She's good for you, Thomas said. I know. Don't screw it up, Adrian smiled. I'll try not to. That's all any of us can do. December arrived, and with it came the question Adrian had been avoiding, not because he didn't know the answer, but because he wanted to get it right. He talked to Liam first. Hey, buddy, can I ask you something? Liam looked up from his homework. Okay. How do you feel about Elena? I like her. I know you do, but I mean, how would you feel if she was here all the time, like forever? Liam frowned. She already lives here. I mean, forever, forever, like married. Liam's eyes went wide. Are you going to marry her? Maybe, if she says yes. How would you feel about that? Liam thought about it with the seriousness only a 5-year-old could muster. Would she still make pancakes? He asked. Probably. And play cards? Definitely. And come to my soccer games? Every single one, Liam nodded. Then I think you should marry her. Adrian smiled. Yeah? Yeah, she's nice, and she makes you happy, and she doesn't make me eat vegetables as much as Grandma Margaret does. That's a pretty good reason. I know. Adrian hugged his son. Thanks, buddy. Can I be in the wedding? Of course. Can I wear a tuxedo? If you want. Cool. Next, Adrian talked to Margaret. She was in the kitchen, as usual, reorganizing the spice cabinet for the 3rd time. Margaret, can we talk? She looked at him over her reading glasses. If this is about the paprika, I'm moving it. It doesn't belong next to the cinnamon. It's not about the paprika. Good. What is it? Adrian took a breath. I want to ask Elena to marry me. Margaret set down the jar she was holding. Do you now? Yes. And you're telling me this why? Because I'm asking for your blessing. Margaret stared at him. You don't need my blessing. I know, but I want it anyway. She studied him for a long moment. Then she said, You hurt her once. I know. She almost didn't recover. I know that too. If you hurt her again, I won't, Adrian said. I can't promise everything will be perfect. I can't promise we won't fight or struggle or have hard days. But I can promise I'll show up every single time for the rest of my life. Margaret's expression softened. You really love her. More than I knew I could love anyone. Then you have my blessing, Margaret said. But if you ever make her cry the way she cried after you two broke up, I will personally make your life a living hell. Adrian smiled. I believe you. Good. Margaret picked up the paprika. Now, help me with this cabinet. Your organizational system is a disaster. The ring took 3 weeks to design. Nothing too flashy. Elena wouldn't want flashy. A simple platinum band with a single diamond. Elegant. Timeless. Like her. Adrian picked it up 2 days before Christmas and carried it in his pocket for 48 hours, waiting for the right moment. It came on Christmas Eve. They'd spent the day together, all of them, opening presents, watching movies, eating too much food. Now it was late. Liam and Margaret were asleep. The apartment was quiet except for the soft sound of jazz playing in the background. Adrian and Elena sat on the couch, her feet in his lap, both of them exhausted and content. "This was a good day," Elena said. "Yeah." Liam loved his bike. "He's going to break his neck on that thing," Elena laughed. "Probably. But he'll have fun doing it." Adrian looked at her, at the way the lights from the tree reflected in her eyes, at the small smile on her face. This was it. "Elena." "Hmm?" "Stand up." She frowned. "Why?" "Just trust me." Elena sat up, still looking confused, and Adrian stood and pulled her to her feet. Then he got down on one knee. Elena's hands flew to her mouth. "Adrian." "I know this isn't a surprise," Adrian said. "I know you probably saw this coming, but I need to say it anyway." "Okay." "A year ago, I walked into a diner at 3 in the morning because I couldn't sleep, because I felt hollow and lost and like I was going through the motions of a life that didn't feel like mine." His voice was steady. "Sure, and I found you, washing dishes, fighting desperation, trying so hard to be strong even when you were breaking." Elena was crying now. "And I didn't know it then. But you saved me. You reminded me what it felt like to care about something, to want something, to build something that mattered." He pulled out the ring. "You're the strongest person I know, the kindest, the most stubborn. You challenge me, you frustrate me, you make me better." Adrian looked up at her. "I don't want to do this life without you. I don't want to wake up without you next to me. I don't want to face hard things without your hand in mine. I just want you, for as long as you'll have me." He held up the ring. "Elena Brooks, will you marry me?" Elena was sobbing now. Happy tears, overwhelmed tears. "Yes," she choked out. "Yes, of course, yes." Adrian slipped the ring on her finger, stood up, and kissed her. And somewhere in the back of the apartment, they heard a small voice say, "Finally." They pulled apart to find Liam standing in the hallway in his pajamas, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. "Were you spying?" Adrian asked. "Maybe." "How long have you been there?" "The whole time." Liam ran over and hugged both of them. "Does this mean Elena's going to be my new mom?" Elena knelt down. "If that's okay with you." "It's very okay," Liam said seriously. "Can we have pancakes tomorrow to celebrate?" Elena laughed through her tears. "We can have pancakes every day if you want." "Cool." They stood there in the living room, the three of them, holding each other, and Adrian felt something click into place. This was his family, messy and imperfect and absolutely right. The wedding happened 4 months later, small, intimate, just family and close friends. They got married in the same diner where they'd first met. The owner had been reluctant at first. "A wedding? In here?" But Adrian had made it worth his while, rented the whole place for the evening, hired decorators to transform it. The cracked vinyl booths were covered in white fabric. The harsh fluorescent lights were replaced with soft strings of bulbs, flowers everywhere. It looked nothing like the sad, fading diner it had been, but it was still the same place, the same counter where Adrian had sat, the same sink where Elena had washed dishes, the same spot where two broken people had found each other at 3 in the morning and decided to try. Elena walked down the aisle in a simple white dress, holding her mother's arm, and Adrian felt his throat close up. She was beautiful. Not in a magazine way, not in a polished, perfect way, just real, and his. The ceremony was short. They'd written their own vows. Adrian went first. "I'm not good with words," he said, "but I'm going to try. Elena, you walked into my life when I'd given up on feeling anything real, and you didn't fix me. You didn't save me. You just showed up, consistently, patiently, and you reminded me that broken things can still be beautiful." His voice cracked. "You're my partner, my best friend, the person I want to annoy for the rest of my life. And I promise to show up for you the way you've shown up for me, every single day, no matter what." Elena was crying. Then it was her turn. "I didn't believe in fairy tales," she said. "I didn't believe in billionaires who swept waitresses off their feet. I didn't believe in second chances or happy endings or any of it." She looked at him. "But you changed that." Not because you saved me, but because you saw me, really saw me. When I was tired and scared and trying so hard to just survive, you saw me and you believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. She took his hands. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if it'll be easy or hard or somewhere in between, but I know I want to face it with you. I know I want to build a life with you. I know I want to grow old with you and fight with you and make pancakes with you and love you until I can't anymore. She smiled through her tears. You're my home, Adrian, and I'm never letting go. There wasn't a dry eye in the place. They kissed, Liam cheered, Margaret sobbed, Thomas clapped, and at 3 a.m, in the same diner where it all began, Adrian and Elena became husband and wife. The reception was loud and chaotic and perfect. They danced, they ate, they laughed until their faces hurt. And when it was over, when everyone had gone home and it was just the two of them standing in the empty diner, Elena turned to Adrian. We did it, she said. Yeah, we did. I'm terrified. Adrian pulled her close. Me too. But also happy. Me too. They stood there holding each other, and Adrian thought about how far they'd come. From strangers in a diner to this, to a marriage, a family, a life. It wasn't perfect. It was never going to be perfect, but it was theirs, and that was enough. 6 months later, the outreach program celebrated its 1-year anniversary. The event was huge, hundreds of people, donors, partners, families who'd been helped. Elena stood on stage and told their story. Not the sanitized version, not the PR-friendly version, the real one. She talked about being a waitress who couldn't afford her mother's treatment, about meeting a man who offered her a chance when she had nothing left to lose, about fighting to prove herself, about failing and trying again, about building something that mattered. I'm not special, she said. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who got lucky, who had someone believe in me when I needed it most, and I want to pay that forward. She looked out at the crowd. That's what this program is about. Not charity, not pity, just people helping people, believing in each other, showing up when it matters. The room erupted in applause. Adrian watched from the back, his heart full, and thought about how wrong he'd been all those months ago. He hadn't saved Elena. She'd saved herself. He'd just been smart enough to get out of the way. That night, back at home, Elena kicked off her heels and collapsed on the couch. That was exhausting, she said. You were amazing. I almost threw up twice. Couldn't tell. Elena laughed. Liar. Adrian sat beside her. Liam was at a sleepover. Margaret was visiting Thomas at his place. They were alone. You know what I was thinking about today? Elena asked. What? That night in the diner, when you first walked in. Yeah? I almost told you to leave. I was so tired and so done, and I just wanted to finish cleaning and go home and collapse. Why didn't you? Elena looked at him. Because you looked worse than I felt. And I thought, maybe he needs the coffee more than I need the quiet. Adrian smiled. Best decision you ever made. Second best, Elena corrected. The best was saying yes when you asked me to marry you. What about saying yes to the job? Third best? Moving in? Fourth. You're ranking our entire relationship? Elena grinned. Maybe. Adrian pulled her close. Where does this rank? What? This. Right now. Just us. Being together. Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, First. This is first. They sat there in the quiet, and Adrian realized something. This was what happiness looked like. Not grand gestures, not big moments, just this. Two people who'd found each other in the dark and decided to build something in the light. Two people who'd been broken and scared and desperate. Two people who'd learned that saving each other wasn't about money or power or fixing what was wrong. It was about showing up, believing, trying. It was about choosing each other every single day, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. That was the real story. Not a billionaire and a waitress, just two people learning how to love in a world that made it difficult. And somehow, impossibly, making it work. Years later, when people asked how they met, Elena would smile and say, at 3 a.m. in a diner that's not there anymore. And Adrian would add, she made terrible coffee. And Elena would elbow him and say, you drank 3 cups. And they'd laugh because it was true. All of it, the terrible coffee, the desperate hope, the impossible odds. The belief that sometimes, when you're standing in the wreckage of your life at 3 in the morning with nothing left to lose, the best thing you can do is let someone in, even if you don't trust them, even if it terrifies you, even if every rational part of your brain says it's a mistake. Sometimes you have to take the chance. Sometimes you have to say yes. Sometimes you have to believe that broken people can find each other and build something beautiful, not despite the cracks, but because of them. That was what Adrian and Elena had learned. Not that love fixes everything, but that showing up for each other consistently and imperfectly was enough. That choosing each other every single day was enough. That building a life together, one messy moment at a time, was enough. And as they sat together in their living room, years after that first meeting in a fading diner, with their family asleep down the hall and their future stretching out before them, they knew one thing for certain. They'd found their home, not in a place, in each other. And that was worth everything.